The escape pod shuddered violently as it entered Earth's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing orange against the night sky. Inside, Thalia Nix gripped the safety harness with white knuckles, her silver bodysuit torn and bloodied from the assassination attempt. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as the vessel's integrity failed. "Navigation systems critical," announced the ship's AI in a calm voice that belied their dire situation. "Attempting emergency landing protocols." Thalia wiped blood from her brow, the royal insignia on her wrist cuff catching the dim emergency lights. As High Guardian to the Asterian royal house, she had survived countless dangers, but never had she been so thoroughly betrayed. The memory of her fellow guardians turning their weapons on her still burned fresh in her mind. "Location assessment," she managed through gritted teeth. "Earth remote terraforming outpost. Northernmost continent. Minimal population detected." Perfect. Of all the planets in the galaxy, she was crash landing on the one world the Asterian Council considered primitive and unworthy of full diplomatic relations. The humans would likely shoot her on sight, if the crash didn't kill her first. The pod careened toward a mountainous region, automatic systems firing desperately to slow their descent. Thalia closed her eyes as the ground rushed up to meet them. The impact came with a deafening crash, throwing her against the harness with enough force to knock the air from her lungs. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of escaping coolant and the soft patter of debris settling around her. Thalia tested her limbs. Nothing broken, though the wound in her side had reopened. She released the harness and stumbled toward the emergency hatch, which had been partially crushed in the landing. Using her augmented strength, she wrenched the damaged door open and tumbled into the cold night air. Snow crunched beneath her boots as she surveyed her surroundings. The pod had carved a deep furrow through a forest, leaving splintered trees and scorched earth in its wake. In the distance, lights glowed, the outpost, she assumed. Her communicator was dead, and the universal translator embedded in her collar sparked weakly. Without it, she would struggle to understand the local dialect. The wound in her side throbbed painfully, reminding her that she needed medical attention soon. The synthetic blood coursing through her veins would keep her alive, but even Asterian physiology had its limits. Thalia was gathering emergency supplies from the wreckage when she heard the crunch of approaching footsteps. She spun around, energy blade materializing in her hand with a flick of her wrist. A human stood 20 paces away, hands raised in what she recognized as a universal gesture of peace. He wore heavy winter gear, a bearded face visible beneath a thermal hood. Despite her blade, he approached cautiously. "You're hurt," he said, his words strange to her damaged translator. Still, the meaning was clear enough from his gestures toward her bloodied side. Thalia kept her blade raised. "Stay back," she commanded, though she wasn't sure if he understood her language. Her people had studied humans extensively, but direct contact was limited to high-level diplomatic missions. To her surprise, the man nodded slowly. "Okay," he said, then pointed to himself. Quinn Reeves," he tapped his chest again. "Engineer." Thalia hesitated. Revealing her identity could be dangerous, but she needed help. "Thalia," she finally offered, lowering her weapon slightly. Quinn smiled, and something about the genuine warmth in his expression caught her off guard. Humans were supposed to be primitive, suspicious creatures. This one seemed kind. "Medical," he said slowly, miming wrapping a bandage around his arm. "Help." Before she could respond, her legs buckled beneath her. The blood loss and the crash had taken their toll. Quinn rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Thalia's instincts screamed to fight, but her body refused to cooperate. "I got you," Quinn said, his voice surprisingly gentle as he helped her stand. "Let's get you somewhere warm." With no better options, Thalia allowed him to guide her toward a small, rugged vehicle parked at the edge of the clearing. As they moved away from the crash site, she caught sight of something in the sky, a faint shimmer that experienced eyes would recognize as a cloaked vessel. Her pursuers had followed her to Earth. Quinn helped her into the passenger seat of his rover. The vehicle was primitive compared to Asterian technology, but functional. As he climbed into the driver's side, Thalia made a decision. This human had no idea what he was getting involved in by helping her, but for now, he was her only ally on this frozen world. "Danger," she said, pointing skyward. Her translator sputtered, trying to convert her words. "People, hunt me." Quinn followed her gaze, though the cloaked ship was invisible to human eyes. He studied her for a moment, taking in her silver bodysuit, the strange technology, and the now deactivated energy blade. "You're not from around here?" he said slowly, a statement rather than a question. Thalia shook her head. To her surprise, Quinn simply nodded and started the engine. "Well, whoever's after you will have to deal with a blizzard first. There's a storm coming in tonight that'll cover your tracks." As they drove toward the distant lights of the outpost, Thalia watched Quinn from the corner of her eye. The Asterian Council had always dismissed humans as barely worth studying, technologically backward and culturally stagnant. Yet this one had encountered an injured alien with advanced weaponry and had responded with compassion. Quinn kept glancing at her wound. "That looks bad. I'm not a doctor, but we have medical supplies at my cabin. The outpost clinic would ask too many questions." Thalia nodded gratefully, then winced as pain shot through her side. The rover bumped along the snowy track, each jolt sending fresh waves of agony through her body. As consciousness began to slip away, she found herself wondering why this human would risk helping a stranger who had literally fallen from the sky. "Why?" she managed to ask, her translator finally cooperating. Quinn glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "Because you need help," he said simply, "and out here that's reason enough." As darkness claimed her, Thalia's last thought was that perhaps the Council had been wrong about humans after all. Thalia awakened to the crackle of a wood fire. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing rough-hewn wooden beams above her. She lay on a soft couch, covered with a thermal blanket. Her bodysuit had been partially removed, and a bandage wrapped her midsection where the assassin's blade had cut deep. She bolted upright, instantly alert, then winced as pain lanced through her side. A scan of her surroundings revealed a small cabin filled with a curious mix of advanced technology and rustic furnishings. Through a window, she saw snow falling heavily, blanketing the world in white. The blizzard the human had mentioned. "You're awake." Quinn entered from an adjacent room, carrying a steaming mug. He'd removed his heavy outerwear, revealing a tall, lean build. His dark hair was pulled back in a short ponytail, and his eyes, a startling green, studied her with concern rather than fear. "How do you feel?" Thalia's hand instinctively moved to her wrist cuff, but her weapon didn't materialize. Her eyes narrowed. Quinn gestured to a workbench where her equipment lay. "I didn't take anything, just moved it while treating your wound." He approached slowly, offering the mug. "It's just tea, helps with pain." After a moment's hesitation, she accepted it, her fingers brushing his. The warmth felt good against her palms. "Thank you," she said, her translator now functioning better after hours of self-repair. "You're welcome." Quinn settled in a chair opposite her. "So, want to tell me why you fell from the sky, or why someone's hunting you?" Thalia sipped the tea, considering her options. This human had saved her life. He deserved some explanation. But revealing too much could endanger them both. "My name is Thalia Nix. Was, High Guardian to the Royal House of Asteria." She watched his reaction carefully. Quinn's eyebrows rose, and Asteria would be a civilization about 30 light-years from here. She gestured upward. "My people have monitored Earth for centuries, though we rarely interfere." "Aliens?" Quinn nodded slowly, processing. "Actually explains a lot about your outfit and that lightsword thing." He leaned forward. "And the people after you." "Traitors," Thalia's voice hardened. "I was escorting the crown princess when my own guardians turned on us. I managed to get her to safety before fleeing. They were—" She paused, the betrayal still raw. "They were my friends." Quinn's expression softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry." The genuine empathy in his voice caught her off guard again. She'd been trained to view emotions as weapons, tools to manipulate or weaknesses to exploit. This straightforward compassion was disarming. "Your wound needed stitches," Quinn continued. "I used the medical supplies I had, but they're designed for human physiology." Thalia glanced at her bandaged side. It will suffice. My body heals faster than yours. A sudden beeping from Quinn's computer terminal interrupted them. He crossed to it, frowning at the display. Someone scanning the area, advanced tech, nothing like our outpost equipment. He looked back at her. Friends of yours? Unlikely, Thalia stood, ignoring the pain. How isolated is this location? Very. It's just me and a handful of other engineers maintaining the terraforming equipment. Nearest town is 200 kilometers south. Quinn typed rapidly. They're using some kind of energy signature tracking, probably looking for your crash site or maybe your technology. Thalia moved to the window, watching the snowstorm rage. The blizzard will hide us temporarily, but once it clears. She didn't need to finish the thought. Quinn raked a hand through his hair. What happens if they find you? They kill me, she said simply, and anyone with me. Instead of showing the fear she expected, Quinn's jaw set determinedly. Then we need to move. I have an old research station in the mountains. Off-grid, doesn't show on any maps. We can take my backup rover. It has thermal shielding for the extreme weather zones. Thalia stared at him. Why would you risk your life for me? You know nothing about this conflict. Quinn began gathering supplies. I know enough. You're running from people who betrayed you and you're injured. That's all I need to know right now. It is not logical, she insisted. Your survival chances decrease significantly by helping me. He smiled wryly. Humans aren't always logical. Consider it a character flaw. As Quinn packed essentials, Thalia retrieved her equipment from the workbench. Her communicator was damaged beyond simple repair, but her defensive systems were intact. She reattached her wrist cuff, feeling slightly more secure with her weapon accessible again. We'll need to leave soon, Quinn said, checking a weather console. There's a brief window before the storm intensifies again. Thalia nodded, then hesitated. In my culture, debts must be acknowledged. I owe you my life. Quinn zipped up his thermal coat. Keep me alive through this, and we'll call it even. They loaded the rover quickly, working in silent efficiency. Quinn's backup vehicle surprised her. It was sturdier than his primary transport, with reinforced plating and specialized equipment. Terraforming work can get dangerous, he explained, noticing her interest. Unstable terrain, chemical exposures, extreme weather. This old girl's got me out of some tight spots. As they prepared to depart, a distant sound cut through the howling wind, the distinctive whine of anti-gravity engines. They've found the crash site, Thalia said grimly. We need to move now. Quinn gunned the rover's engine, steering them away from the cabin and into the storm. The vehicle plowed through deep snow, its lights barely penetrating the swirling white darkness ahead. The mountains are northwest, he shouted over the engine's roar. Rough terrain, but impossible to track in this weather. Thalia watched the scanner she'd salvaged from her equipment. It showed 3 vessels circling the area where her escape pod had crashed. Who exactly are we running from? Quinn asked as they crested a ridge. Mercenaries hired by someone within the royal court, she replied. Skilled hunters with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. Great, Quinn muttered. And here I thought terraforming a frozen wasteland would be the most exciting thing I'd do this year. Despite everything, Thalia felt her lips twitch upward. This human's ability to find humor in dire circumstances was strangely refreshing. The rover climbed higher into the mountains, the storm growing fiercer around them. Visibility dropped to near zero, forcing Quinn to rely on terrain mapping systems to navigate. Thalia kept her eyes on the scanner, watching for pursuit. They're spreading out, she reported. Systematic search pattern. Quinn's expression remained focused as he navigated a treacherous mountain pass. How well can they track in these conditions? Better than your technology, but the storm interferes with their sensors too. She adjusted settings on her scanner. If we can reach your station before the weather clears, we might gain some time. They drove in tense silence for nearly an hour, the rover straining against steep inclines and howling winds. Finally, they reached a narrow plateau nestled between towering peaks. A small structure stood partially concealed by rock formations, its exterior designed to blend with the mountainside. "Home sweet home," Quinn said, maneuvering the rover into a camouflaged garage. "At least temporarily." Inside, the research station was spartanly furnished but well-equipped. Solar and geothermal systems provided power, and the facility was stocked with supplies for extended isolation. "We monitored weather patterns from here during the early terraforming phases," Quinn explained, activating the heating systems. "It's been abandoned officially, but I maintain it as a backup. Call it paranoia." "Prudent, not paranoid," Thalia corrected, examining the station's defensive possibilities. The natural rock formations provided excellent cover, and the single approach was easily defensible. As Quinn prepared a meal from stored rations, Thalia found herself studying him. On Asteria, no one would have helped a stranger at such personal risk. Her people valued hierarchy, protocol, and self-preservation above all else. Yet this human had upended his life without hesitation to aid her. "Why are you really helping me?" she asked again as they sat eating. "The end,"